certainly with the young man you're referring to, some strange things happened overnight, which, that's a story for another day. But again, we got the right people here in this program that signed today, guys that you can win with, and you win with people, and we certainly got the right guys here today, that's for sure.
Hey, Jalen Catalon announced yesterday he was coming back.
Yeah, there you go.
So just
go Hawks.
just wanted to get
talking to guys about playing time and how early they're going to play, those types of conversations.
Yeah, I truly believe this. I've sat in a lot of elite players' living rooms or at their school, and to me, if you're promising a kid that he's going to be your starter, man, if I'm a recruit, I'd be on the lookout. What he promised the guy in front of me, what's he going to promise the guy behind me.
Welcome in to the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Brennan. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter. And I'm joined, as always, by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Vols on Twitter. What are you up to, you big Tennessee Homer?
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Oh, man, it sounds like the party is starting early there in East Tennessee. What are you up to, brother?
Mike's probably going to get to it here in a second, but got to go to a Christmas party tonight, so we thought we'd do this a little bit early, but I didn't want to do it before noon because, if you're drinking before noon, you got a problem, I'm just getting lubed up for tonight's party. So I'm feeling good, man. A little better than Urban Meyer, that's for sure. Oh, my chest is hurting. Oh.
Yeah, so I'm drinking my morning coffee. Shane's drinking his afternoon beer. That's the beauty of being in different time zones here. But yeah, hey, actually, it's funny you mentioned that because I did want to hit on that just to start the show because that just happened. Now we kind of hit on the last one. We've been out of on vacation for a week and a half, so we missed a ton of storylines. We're just going to recap all that, but that was the plan. And then here in the middle of the night, the Jaguars fired Urban Meyer, and I got a text immediately from cousin Shane. Any SEC teams thinking about hiring Meyer? And I was like, what in the hell is he talking about? Jumped on the Twitter, so saw he got fired. So, man, what a spectacular failure that was. What did he last? 11 games? I think he won 2 of them.
Yeah.
And now Urban Meyer's looking for a job.
He officially took the reins for Steve Spurrier, the worst college to NFL college coach. Don't you think? Everybody always thinks about Steve Spurrier and his failure there at the Washington Redskins, but think about this. This has got to be it, man. This is the icing on the cake. I think he goes in hiding. I mean, when I first sent that, obviously, college is going to be his niche, and he's going to be a hot topic. We're going to talk about it every offseason, but he disappears for a little bit, right?
Yeah, I would think so because this is just so, the timing is horrible. All the head coaching jobs just got hired. Mm-hmm. I know you were joking, man, Oregon, had they just held out a week longer, I mean, then maybe we're talking to Urban Meyer, but hell, I don't even know if a college job wants him right now. But I have heard that, before he took over there, the Jaguars, he was, of course, working for Fox Sports, being one of their analysts on their college football show. And I've heard from insiders that, they would welcome him back with open arms. So that's kind of where I see. And hell, we may even see Urban Meyer here on the set breaking down some of these bowl games before you know it.
Oh, Lambeau, the kick heard round the world,
Yeah, anybody that missed it, that's kind of what, there's been so many miscues here from Urban Meyer and the Jaguars in his brief tenure there. But the latest was the former kicker said he was stretching on the practice field, and Urban Meyer came and kicked him after he missed a couple kicks and told him, he cussed him out and all this. And I don't know if that's true or not, but apparently that was the last straw.
Mike, I'm going to tell you one thing about that Lambeau statement. It came out, and I can see this. I mean, when you have a camaraderie with the coaching staff, there's things like this. The coach come by and hit you on the helmet or, just knock you down or something like that in a playful manner. I can see this being a thing. But, from all the reports we've heard from Jacksonville is that, he was not a liked coach in that locker room. Right. So, when you hear Lambeau's statement talking about getting kicked, it's like, okay, on part of I could see it. Maybe he's trying to be friends with people on the staff, but on the other one, you're like, maybe it's bad timing. So I don't know. Yeah. I think the writing was on the wall. A lot of people have been trying to get Urban out of there, especially you're hearing all the news and noise coming out of the locker room. I think it was just a matter of time. And I can't believe that this is the final straw, but they had to hang it on something. You know what I'm saying?
And I just realized the biggest loser from this whole scenario. You know who it is, Shane?
Who's that?
Dan Mullen, because there goes his NFL offensive coordinator job.
Oh, jeez. Well, you know what? I think it's bad for college coaches in general. I mean, one of the first tweets that Adam Schefter put out was just the terrible transition that these college head coaches have going into the NFL. I mean, we look at Matt Rule up there struggling. I mean, it's just it's coach after coach after coach, and it makes it harder. So, you got coaches. I mean, you joked about Dan. Here's a guy that clearly wants his opportunity to go to the NFL. Well, here's just, one of the winningest coaches in college football can't do it in the next level. So I think it hurts a lot of these guys that are on this playing field. It's like you got to choose sides now. You got to either do the Belichick route and just stay in the NFL the whole entire time, or get lucky. And it's tough to go college to pro, and it's just another story.
All I hear there, folks, is Cousin Shane saying, Josh Heupel, please, God, do not make that jump to the Jaguars.
Absolutely, man. Well, it's not just that. Look at, what's his name there at Louisiana, LSU. This is God's gift to offensive coordinator, and then he's out. You know what I'm saying? It's just what works for one level doesn't work for the other. So I am curious because there's going to – it's not over. There are going to be a lot of coaching rumors here in the offseason. Don't be surprised if you don't see Urban's names coming to the top again. But I'm with you, Mike. I think Urb disappears for a little bit, maybe takes his new girlfriend there and, heads to Destin down there with Coach O,
But all right, buddy, hey, we got a ton of SEC storylines to hit, so let's move this thing along. And
all right,
I wanted to start. We've got the bowl games. We're gonna, be covering those all next week. I got special guests coming on to preview all the matchups, really break down the other teams. But the only bowl game that, and hell, it's not even official at this point, Shane. But Circa Sports, while we were out, they have announced a projected point spread if Georgia and Alabama win their semifinal games and meet in the national championship. What do you think the projected spread for Georgia-Alabama round 2 is, Shane?
I'm going to go Bama -11.
Now, I think that's what a lot of people would have said, Shane, but it's actually Georgia favored by 1 point with a over-under of 53.5 points. So, man, even the experts there in Vegas still leaning just by the slightest margin towards them Georgia Bulldogs. But I thought that was pretty interesting.
I'll tell you, Mike. A few years back when that LSU, who was it? Is LSU Alabama when those two met? And LSU lost during the regular season. Then it went. It didn't have the luster. It was one of the lowest ratings, and because nobody really wanted to watch it. I think this is different, Mike. I think, the story of a do-over for the Georgia Bulldogs, man, if these two teams meet for the national, just think about the spotlight. I think this will be one of the best games, the highest viewed games, even though these guys have already played each other in history, man. It's setting up to be, and now you got Vegas coming out saying, I don't even know. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty much a pick 'em. So that's the national. That's what you want to see for a national championship game is two Titans facing each other. You don't want to see a blowout.
And you actually had that flip, Shane. It was LSU won in the regular season.
Yeah, that's right.
And then Bama, of course, won in the national championship. But everything else you said, spot on. And I think a big issue with that was, if I do recall, the regular season game, it was 9-6, won in overtime. It was a god-awful football game to watch. And thankfully, we are now in a time with this, explosive offenses and And now, Georgia's going to have that chip on their shoulder. Who are they going to start at quarterback? That remains to be seen. But if it is Stetson, if he can have a better game, if it's JT Daniels, if he finally, returns to form like we talked about that guy for 8 months, how he's going to light up the scoreboard. Now's the time to put it on the field and show it. But if we get that, it's going to be complete opposite of 9-6. It may be 50-48 or something betted on what we saw in that SEC championship game.
Absolutely. The worst thing that these teams can do is get caught looking ahead, though, Mike. Here we're already betting this game up. They got one, they got to win before they get there. So please don't screw this up, Georgia or Alabama.
Well, sticking with those teams, Shane, let's hit on just a little bit of news for each of them. Georgia, of course, the big news. Defensive coordinator Dan Lanning has taken the Oregon job, and that was after it was initially reported, I think, on a Friday by Chip Towers of the AJC, and then everybody and their mother said, no, hell no, that ain't happening. And then by Saturday, they were like, oh, yeah, guess who's the new coach? It is Dan Lanning, and he's going to stay on for the Georgia Bulldogs to coach in the playoff, but we all know how tough and difficult that is. Many coaches have tried it, and the mixed results. Remember Lane Kiffin? He got fired by Alabama after he took the FAU job and was trying to do both, and Nick Saban wasn't happy with what was going on. So that was the worst that we've ever seen this. But thankfully for the Bulldogs, I'm not trying to take away anything from Dan Lanning because I think he's was maybe the best assistant coach in the country. But we know Kirby Smart. They got Will Muschamp. They have got some defensive minds on that staff to go along with Dan Lanning. So kind of at the end of the day, Shane, I don't really think that, as difficult as this couple of weeks may be for Dan Lanning, to me, I don't think this is going to really hurt the Georgia Bulldogs. What do you think?
No, I don't. It's just because of the type of season it is, the players we got that we're working with. I think we're at the point where we're just fine-tuning some mistakes that we've made in games past. The script's out. We know exactly what we got on that side of the ball, but there was some mistakes clearly made in the Alabama game. So I think this is more about tweak and just maintenance going into this thing than it is actually. It's not like he's building the defense from the ground up. So yeah, I think right now they are on cruise control. And I don't think it's going to hurt that defense at all. Not to mention Kirby Smart is still there. It's not like he left.
Exactly.
So he's got his hands all up in it as well.
And one other guy, I should have mentioned his name, Glenn Schumann, the inside linebackers coach. I think he's co-defensive coordinator down there. I think everybody is going to assume that Will Muschamp will be the new defensive coordinator. I bet you Kirby makes Glenn Schumann the next defensive coordinator there in Athens to keep him, give him a pay bump. He's one of the best inside linebackers coach in the country, and I think it's his time. And if Kirby does not give him that defensive coordinator title, he may be looking for other opportunities to get that promotion. So I think that's going to be your next defensive coordinator, and it should be seamless down there with Georgia if they just promote from within. They don't have to do a national search to find a replacement for Dan Lanning.
Yeah, no joke. Kirby and Muschamp, man, they're buddies. So they know what the future holds. They know what Muschamp wants to do and what doesn't want to do. So if Muschamp doesn't plan on sticking around and looking for another head coaching opportunity, then why not keep what you do have on staff? So, yeah, I think that would be crucial. I think that decision's big. For me, is going to be more about Muschamp than it will be who's the defensive coordinator,
And I think South Carolina's still paying $1 million, so it's not like he's needing a pay bump. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Hang out, man. Just do the Butch Jones route for a little bit. No, I'm just kidding. He ain't fetching coffee. Muschamp ain't fetching no damn coffee. Could you imagine?
Well, and then flipping to the other side, Shay, we've got a little bit of bad news and good news here for the Crimson Tide. They're starting cornerback Josh Jobe out for the season. Unfortunately, injured leading up to the playoff appearance against Cincinnati. So, Alabama down their top corner now. They're going to be down their number 2 receiver, of course. John Mechie got hurt in the SEC championship game. Maybe these injuries factoring into that spread a little bit with Alabama and Georgia. Not saying that it's that big of a deal where it's going to swing the point spread, but maybe. But on the good news, Shane, this broke last night. Former LSU All-American Eli Ricks, the corner, transfers from LSU to Alabama. So unfortunately, they can't put them on the field immediately, but they're going to have a lockdown corner next season. And LSU fans, I got to be pissed that one of their better players is jumping ship and staying in the SEC West, going to play for them Crimson Tide.
Yeah, you better watch them jersey numbers real close during the playoffs. They're going to sneak his ass out there.
All right, Shay, jumping down to Gainesville. Billy Napier taking over there in Gainesville. We just had, a pretty solid signing day. We kind of recapped that on the last episode. Go back and check that out if you missed it. But hey, he's making some big moves down there with his first staff, Shane. And the biggest one that we missed while we were away, Corey Raymond, longtime LSU defensive backs coach, one of the most respected names in the SEC. He'd been down in Baton Rouge for a decade. And, they call it DBU for a reason. And a big part of that is Corey Raymond recruiting 5-star after 5-star to Baton Rouge and developing those guys into NFL, not only players, but standouts. Now he's jumping ship, Shane. He's working for Billy Napier at Florida. That was maybe the biggest assistant coaching move of the offseason to date, and it's already paying off on the recruiting trail. Now, of course, everybody's making fun of Florida because they were losing guys left and right and all this, but I made this point on another show, Shane. We live in this age of the transfer portal, obviously, where hell, it's not even a stunner anymore if these kids sign with a school, go through spring practice, and then say, you know what, I don't like it here, I'm transferring. I mean, that happens every year now. Yeah. So, back in the day, what you wanted to do, you wanted to sign as many guys as you can because you basically had them locked in. They couldn't transfer within the SEC. If they wanted to transfer to anywhere, they had to, go to JUCO or sit out a year. Now all that's out the window. And 10 years ago, I would have looked at what Billy Napier's doing and said, this is stupid. You got to sign as many guys as you can to rebuild Florida's roster. But in today's era, when you can transfer at the drop of a hat, I think it's smart to kind of, be transparent with these kids. And maybe if you don't see them fitting into your program, you cut them loose and you let them go. Even though, they may be really good players, doesn't mean they're going to be great players for you. And at the end of the day, if you got holes all across your roster after signing day, that's what the portal's for. So I don't know. That's just my little spiel there, Shane, that I know Billy Napier's taking a big PR hit, but I think at the end of the day, this is a good thing for Florida, given all the transition there. What are your thoughts on that?
Dude, this is going to be you're never going to see the portal like it was in years past. This is going to be the wildest year. I'm telling you right now, Mike, because of this NIL, something that we hit on the last pod. This is a game changer. There's a lot of kids sitting out here. There's some young, great athletes at some of these universities. Guess what? Ain't getting paid. You know what? Ain't getting the airtime. Ain't getting the publicity that they thought when they went to that campus. And they're sitting there. There's a lot in the portal right now, but there's a lot on the fence thinking about getting into it. All it takes is a phone call from one of these other kids and say, hey, get your ass down here. Guess how much Tennessee linemen are making? $50,000. What? Just to wear a number? I'm in. You know what I'm saying? A little warmer down there. So I think the days have passed. What we've looked at, we knew how the portal worked years past, but I think it's a totally different market this year, Mike. I think we're going to have some big names jumping here in the offseason. We've already talked on a few jump. I mean, think about it. You had Tank in there for a little bit. You have Bo Nix in there. I mean, there's some big high caliber names that are in the transfer portal or thinking about getting into it. And I guarantee you, man, by this time here in about 4 or 5 months, there's going to be some bigger names coming around because it is a free agency, man.
Yeah, no doubt. And that was the next thing I wanted to talk about with the Gators real quick because Emory Jones in the portal now. Jacob Copeland, their top receiver, in the portal. They lost Chris Bogle, the outside linebacker. He's already went on to Michigan State. Emory Jones and Jacob Copeland can come back. I certainly wouldn't expect Emory Jones to do so. So we're already seeing those defections. But one other news, and man, this is really going to hurt if Emory Jones leaves, is the fact that Anthony Richardson is not going to play in the bowl game. Shane, he had surgery and he's out, so he's gearing up for spring football, first spring under Billy Napier. But I don't know if Emory Jones is gone and Anthony Richardson's out. I don't know who's taking snaps for the Gators here in the bowl game. So, hey, that's just something to monitor. You know what?
Who they playing?
Central Florida, UCF.
Yeah, you could just put anybody in there, Mike. You know what I'm saying? Let's just run Wildcat on this thing. It don't matter. Man, have fun. You know, you're getting a bowl game. You got these extra practices. I mean, all it is gearing up for next year anyway. You got young talent on that field. Just let them play. So, Emory's out. You know, whatever. AR's gone. Get them rest because we need them next season. So, I think the Gator fans are all right.
Well, let's jump it all day to Baton Rouge, Shane, because, hey, we had more transfer portal news because, of course, we kind of hit on it on the last episode. Max Johnson enters the portal starting quarterback. Looks like he's going to go to A&M, and it's just how weird is it that he beat A&M in his final throw at LSU. Now he may suit up for the Aggies. But right before we hopped on here, Shane, big news in Baton Rouge. Myles Brennan took his name out of the portal. So all of a sudden, LSU may have a veteran quarterback that he's been there for, I think, 5 seasons now, and he may be the guy. I know they got Garrett Nussmeier. They just signed another 5-star Walker Howard. So, hey, all of a sudden, LSU could go from 1 quarterback to 3 in a hurry. And, you know, this is something we talked about, Myles Brennan, when he went into the portal. Really rooting for this guy because this is a guy, he was on the team before Joe Burrow. And they brought in Joe Burrow. He could have left then. He said, to hell with this. But this is a guy that loves LSU. And, you know, he just can't stay healthy. And when we did see him play in the 2020 season, he lit it up. I hope he can stay healthy. And maybe this will be finally his breakout season down there in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, it's kind of like a, I don't know, kind of like a Stetson Bennett story, you know? It's just somebody that's just been around, left, you know, it's just not all the way. I mean, you got to think a few years back, him and Joe Burrow were competing neck to neck. I mean, it came down the wire for Burrow to even get the starting position. So, yeah, I mean, the SEC, you've got to have a serviceable quarterback. And I'm not saying that Myles is the future or anything like that, but maybe he didn't fit the mold that Coach O had. You know, he just never seemed like he could really shine. We don't know right now what Kelly's going to do with this offense, but I mean, he's put some quarterbacks in the league, you know what I'm saying? So I think stick around because when you're looking at an empty room of quarterbacks, you know, well, guess who's getting the starting nod? So I'm not leaving right now, and I think this is big for LSU. They don't see it right now. I think a lot of fans aren't thinking, but, you know, having a quarterback is a lot better than not.
And I don't know if you saw this, Shane, while we were out, but I just really wanted to get your thoughts because I'd never heard anything quite like this, but you know, there was so much speculation, Jimbo Fisher and LSU. Well, apparently, here's why it was, Shane. They were offering Jimbo, reportedly, according to Billy Lucci of Texags, $13 million a season, an 8-year, $125 million contract.
Jeez.
Oh my. Imagine the, you know, imagine turning that deal down. I mean, that's insane, isn't it?
You think? I mean, we did joke on yesterday's pod about the recruiting class. I mean, it's hard because the reason that they want you to make all that money is because you are successful. I know Texas A&M didn't get to have the season they wanted, but they had a lot of things go against them. You know, I mean, hell, their starting quarterback got hurt, so I think if things could have played out a little bit different, they may have been. I mean, hell, they beat Nick Saban. I know they lost a couple games, but man, you beat Alabama. That's going to keep you another. That gives you your extension. So I don't know, man. I think it's crazy the money they throw around for these coaches, and especially Jimbo, because part of me is like, well, he hasn't won an SEC championship. He hasn't won a national championship. He hasn't even been in the playoffs yet, you know. And it's like, is he worth it? But I don't know, man. I think when you look at the recruiting class he has down there at Texas A&M, it's hard to argue what they're building down there. But man, that's a lot of money to turn away from, man.
Yeah, and maybe this is a better topic for the offseason. I think it'll be something we discuss. But, you know, I feel like even though you beat Alabama, I think this is I don't want to say a wasted year, but it's just a missed opportunity. Because, you know, you lost to both of the Mississippi schools. You lost to Arkansas. Those are good programs. I'm not saying they're not. But with all the hype, the fact that you beat Alabama, showed how much promise you got. You can't lose all those games. You know what I mean?
No.
And can be considered an elite coach, at least not this year. So Jimbo's got some making up to do, I feel like, to the Texas Ags.
For sure, definitely.
And how about this real quick, Shane? Did you see Brian Kelly and his dance moves? Let's throw it up here on the YouTube if you missed it. But who's got better dance moves, Shane, you or Brian Kelly?
Oh, definitely me, man. I mean, look at that. Well, first off, I've never grinded on a young man before, but I will say this. This was probably one of the most awkward things I've seen since Dabo did something similar to this, you know, or the Hickory Dickory Dock. Oh, my God. You know, this is one of those things. It's like somebody in the room thought this was a good idea, and I just hope it wasn't Kelly.
Well, I wanted to get you in a good mood, Shane, because that's the next one. Let's jump it all down to Rocky Top. We had some big news here while we were away, but Hendon Hooker makes it official, coming back as a super senior for the 2022 season. And, you know, some people mock this and say, well, where the hell is he going to go? From what I understand, he was getting an NFL draftable grade, and I certainly don't think he would have been like a first rounder or anything, so that's probably a big reason why he's coming back to garner that stock. But he really was one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the country this season. And now with Hooker returning, you know, we still got to go through the offseason, but it's hard for me not to see the Tennessee Vols as a preseason top 25 team now that he's made this decision. What do you think?
This is huge, Mike. Absolutely huge. This is the biggest get for me. Forget National Signing Day. I mean, if you don't have a quarterback, something we talked about with Brennan, man, if you don't have a quarterback, your team is going to struggle in the SEC. Hooker came out slow, but then he turned into a seasoned vet by the end of the season. So, yeah, I'm ecstatic by this. And this is, I think, a lot of people ain't talking about it, but I think this is one of those deals you're looking at. Okay, how much was I going to make as a 5th or 6th or 7th round quarterback? You know what I'm saying? When I could just stick around here, get some NIL money, and who knows, get a better draft stock coming into next season. So I love it. I'm ecstatic about this. And Milton staying. I know a lot of people give him a hard time, but damn, you know, I figured he'd hit the portal. Who knows? Maybe he can get some better reps, and you know, who knows? Maybe he hands the reins over if he can get that. You know, that he's got an arm, Mike. You know, you got to bring it down a little bit. But sorry, his beer's starting to kick.
Yeah, and speaking of, you know, staying on that theme of Tennessee and potentially some hype, Shane. Of course, they're playing in the Music City Bowl against Purdue, and I don't know if you saw this, Shane, but. I don't know who's voting for these things, but apparently Purdue's got 2 All-Americans, a defensive lineman and a receiver, and they have both announced that they're going to skip the Music City Bowl. So, hey, things are looking up for Tennessee. I mean, if the Purdue's 2 best players are not even going to play this damn game, you know what?
Hell, if I had the option, I wouldn't want to play them either, Mike. Oh, you can just sit on the bench over there, Drew Brees in retirement for all I care, man. It ain't, you know, I think Tennessee's going to whoop some ass there in Nashville.
Well, Shane, you kind of teased it there. Let's jump on down to the Plains because a lot happened there while we were away. And the key one, of course, Bo Nix enters the transfer portal, leaving the Auburn Tigers, has no intention of returning. And, man, so many mixed emotions for me with this one because I know, you know, he's a guy a lot of people love to poke fun of in all this. He's not the perfect quarterback, but he was coming off one of his best seasons there as an Auburn Tiger. But had he returned, Shane, it would have been his 4th offensive coordinator in 4 years. I don't know if this is really an indictment on Brian Harsin or not. Maybe it is, but you know, at the end of the day, Shane, we talk about all this NIL stuff. Bo Nix was one of the biggest NIL guys. And a lot of that had to do with him being an Auburn legacy, being the face of that program. And, man, anytime we put out a video or a clip or anything of Bo Nix, it gets tons and tons of attention. He's one of the most popular players in the entire conference. And now the face of your program is gone. What are your thoughts on this, Shane? Because I'm a little – now maybe he'll go somewhere and he'll be outstanding. He's a graduate. He's got 2 years to play. I think his plan is to only play 1 and make it to the NFL, but – he could be around for 2 years, but I feel like he's hurting his legacy a little bit here, and maybe he don't care about that right now, but he could have been one of these guys that would have always been remembered down there on the plains, and now I don't think that's going to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, well, the problem is, Mike, we weren't in the locker rooms. We weren't at the practices. There was times during the season we didn't know how secure Bo Nix's job even was. So does he want to go through another season of that? I mean, this is a kid that was highly touted coming into Auburn. This was a guy. This was a legacy. He was a poor man Arch Manning, if you ask me, man, because he came in on that pedestal thinking he was going to be the next Heisman. He was going to take Auburn to national championships. That's a lot of pressure as a young kid. And that's the pressure they put on him down there. So I don't know if that hurt him fundamentally, but, when you bounce around something you mentioned, 3-4 coordinators, I mean, that's got to mess with you too. You're learning a new playbook every single year. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn on this because I wish nothing but the best for Bo Nix, but I'll always think of him as an Auburn Tiger. It's hard not to.
Right.
Just for all the games that he's played. So I don't know. Is there any chance he comes back? I mean, it's not done. It's not, the ink hasn't dried or anything like that. I think you got to sit down with, I guess Mike Bobo's sticking around, right? I haven't heard.
No. See, that's what I was going to say.
Oh.
They fired Bobo, but what they haven't officially announced it, but it certainly all indications are Auburn is going to hire Seattle Seahawks quarterback coach Austin Davis as the new offensive coordinator. So maybe there's a glimmer of hope there that Bo Nix looks at that and says, well, hell, my goal is to get to the NFL. What better way than to learn from an NFL coach how to get there? So maybe that brings him back, but I don't know, Shane. Based on everything I've heard, I think he's kind of washed his hands of the Auburn Tigers, and he's just looking for a fresh start somewhere else.
Yeah, but I mean, when you go somewhere else, you're still going to have pressure on you. You're Bo Nix, so I don't know. Right. I'd kind of like to see him stick around, maybe pull a tank and get back on campus. But I think this is something that the coaches are going to have to win or decide. Do they see a future with Bo Nix, or have they seen enough from him? I think that's the decision you make, because say what you want. That's part of the reason that Gus Malzahn's not there. His quarterback play,
Right.
If he would have had good quarterback play like he got in years past, he'd still be sticking around down there. But when you have bad quarterback play and you lose games that you're supposed to win, then people are pointing the finger at you and you're losing a job. So it's a tough market, man. And are you willing to gamble on Bo Nix? And I don't think you can, based off based off his season's work. So I don't know. This one's on Brian, man.
And you teased it again there, Shane, but maybe the biggest news, Tank Bigsby, it looked like he was going to leave Auburn, and he flipped the script there, Shane. He's staying. He met with Coach Harsin. He didn't show up for bowl practice. I mean, that's a pretty big sign that he's done with playing, but apparently they have convinced him to stay. And, for as good as Bo Nix is, Tank Bigsby is your offense. You know what I mean? Like, he's the game breaker. He's the game changer. He's a guy that I don't know what his plans are, but I got to assume after next season, as soon as he's eligible for the draft, he's going to go, because how can you not look at him as, maybe the first potential running back taken when he is eligible? I mean, he's that good of a player. And if I'm Brian Harsin, I mean, the meeting had to have been, we're going to build this offense through you. We're going to get you the touches. We're going to try to get you, All-American status and show the NFL what you can do. And you talk about Hendon Hooker being the biggest win for Tennessee, keeping Tank Bigsby. That's likely the biggest win Auburn could have this offseason.
Yeah, well, I think it's big too. One of the things you just mentioned, their coordinator. I mean, when you look at the Seattle Seahawks and what type of offense they run, it's predominantly running, so it's clock management, and I think that plays in Tank's hands very well. So, yeah, when you could come to him and say, hey, we're going to build this team around you, and then you hire a coach that's going to do that, then, yeah, I'm going to stick around because I want to get paid.
All right, Shane, let's jump on down to Columbia real quick where, man, huge news for the Gamecocks, because a pair of Sooners, former Sooners I should add now, They have officially signed with the Gamecocks, but quarterback Spencer Rattler transferred. I mean, that is just huge for the Gamecocks. And they also got the tight end down there, Austin Stogner, who, when Shane Beamer was at Oklahoma, he was the tight ends coach. So he should know the strengths of Stogner really well, and he knows Rattler good and well. And, the Gamecocks really, it seemed like they planned this out really well, Shane. They announced this right before signing day to give that program some juice heading into the period. And they really blew up social media. I believe this happened on Monday evening.
Oh, yeah.
And, I see some people saying, well, hell, Rattler, he lost his job there at Oklahoma. This is totally overrated. That's not how you have to look at this because, I'm not trying to downgrade South Carolina, but the goal next year is not to win the national championship. I mean, that is a goal, but it's not a realistic goal immediately. What you want to do is rise the SEC East ladder, try to get to Atlanta, and we're talking you're starting an FCS quarterback, you're starting a graduate transfer that was a coach in camp, and now we're getting the former number 1 overall player, someone that threw for over 4,500 yards, 40 touchdowns, only 12 interceptions, completed over 70% of his passes for the Oklahoma Sooners. That's how you got to look at it. This is a major, major, major upgrade at the position, the most important position in the game for South Carolina. And I think that's why the Gamecocks were so ecstatic to get Rattler, don't you think?
Dude, how can you not be? Did you watch quarterback play this year in South Carolina? I mean, come on. There's that running back room is loaded. But they couldn't do anything because so one-dimensional because they never got anything from their quarterback. So this is a home run, man. My phone was going off Monday, and I was just like, I'm like, how long are you going to be in Utah, Mike? Because we need to talk about this. I think this was a absolute home run for South Carolina. How can you not be ecstatic about this news? So that being said, brother, I'm going to tell you, this South Carolina offense is going to look totally different next year. I think that my favorite tweet, though, man, I got to poke a little fun. I wish I could give him credit, but I don't remember where I saw it. But you ever seen that episode of Hangover when the guy says he's sitting there on the phone? He's like, "Oh man, we effed up, man. We effed up." And the subtitle says when he thought Lincoln Riley meant the other USC.
No, that is good. That is good.
Yeah.
But it sounds like this is not official yet, but it sounds like Josh Vann, their standout receiver, he's leaning towards returning. Yeah. And now you got your tight end here. I mean, you got some weapons. You reference it. We got a very, very strong running back room. Zaquandre Wright is off to the NFL. But, all of a sudden, South Carolina, I'm not saying they're going to have the nation's best offense or anything. The fans are still, a lot of fans still pissed off. They hate the coordinator. They want him fired. But it's hard for me to imagine they're bringing in quarterbacks and tight ends and pitching them on the offense, and then they're going to turn right around and say, okay, we're going to fire the coordinator and have a totally new system. I mean, I feel like they sold them on this, and I don't know how you can judge an offensive coordinator until he has got a quarterback and until he's got an offensive line. So, he's got to prove something to us this year, but now he's got some pieces. We got to see what they can do, and just this is the beauty of the transfer portals. A lot of us like to complain, ruining college football. But in years past, Shane, when you have a Shane Beamer take over a South Carolina, you say, well, it's really not fair to judge him until year 3, year 4, where he's getting his guys in. Now, thanks to the portal, look at Josh Heupel at Tennessee bringing in Hendon Hooker. That was a game changer. This could be South Carolina's game changer. You can basically do it overnight. And that's the beauty of it. And hopefully that elevates a team like a South Carolina in a single off season to where we don't have to look to year 3, year 4 to see glimmers of hope. We can get that in year 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're selling recruits, man. Look what we did. Look how quick we're rising. And it all starts with quarterback play. I mean, say what you want. They got one of the top quarterbacks in the SEC. I know a lot of people joke about his season last year, but the dude's a Heisman candidate for a reason. Did the season play out like he wanted? Absolutely not. But to think he's just a washed-up quarterback, you're crazy. Wait till Saturday. He's going to make some noise in South Carolina, man.
Mm-hmm. All right, Shane, let's jump over there to Fayetteville, where I know this is something you wanted to talk about, but big news for the Razorbacks because safety Jalen Catalon is returning. He could have been, a high first-round pick. He did miss most of the season due to shoulder surgery, so maybe that's a big part. He's got to prove his stock once again, but we're talking an All-American caliber player, and this seems to be what the Arkansas Razorbacks are all about under Sam Pittman. Guys wanting to stay, guys, wanting to elevate this program, and this is a homegrown talent. There's not many, I'm sorry, he's from Texas, but it feels like he's been embraced by the Arkansas better than just about any player in the country. So it makes a ton of sense. That was just a huge pickup for the Arkansas Razorbacks team next season, but that ain't all of them, Shane. Starting center Ricky Stromberg, he announced he will return for next season. He could have been an NFL draft pick. And starting right tackle Dalton Wagner has already decided he's going to be a super senior. So, man, this is what you want under Sam Pittman.
Yeah.
Build through the trenches. We're getting two of our standout linemen. We're getting our All-American defensive back. Now, the only, I don't want to call it bad news because he deserves everything coming his way. But Treylon Burks announced he's going pro, which we all figured he would. He's one of the most dominant players not only in the SEC but in the country, and he will not play in the bowl game, but he's probably going to be a top 15 pick. So completely understand that decision. But all in all, Shane, great news for the Razorbacks, and we're just building more momentum to next season.
Buddy, I'm telling you right now, we talked about this yesterday. There's going to be a few teams that just pop because they took advantage of these NILs. Arkansas is one of them, man. You don't see it now, but these guys have figured it out. They made this a community. We've talked about this with Arkansas. It is a team effort. And I know everybody's got a team, but they're built different in Arkansas right now. Here you got first rounders not going to the league and coming back. I mean, tell me there ain't some money being played up there, brother. I'm telling you, Arkansas is onto something. This isn't a fluke. This isn't a 1-year trend. Arkansas here in a few years is going to be freaking loaded, brother. I'm just telling you, they figured it out. This is going to be one of those programs that's going to land top 5 classes here in the next few years.
Well, and speaking of top dollar, Shane, I don't know if you saw this, so I just wanted to throw this your way, but Sam Pittman changed agents. Now he's with the super agent Jimmy Sexton, and not long after that news came out, reports he's asking for a 7-year contract extension worth $50 million. And, I'm not saying that Sam Pittman doesn't deserve that because he's done a hell of a job. Since if you want to go back to the 2020 season and continue that to this season, probably the best coaching job in the SEC. So you could give that guy any money he wants, but he's already said he's not leaving Arkansas. This is will be his final job. So that may have hurt his negotiating tactics a little bit. But let me ask you this, Shane, because this is kind of where mine went when I saw that. And again, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve everything coming his way, but if I'm Sam Pittman, we all know that he's done a hell of a job hiring assistants and particularly his coordinators, Kendall Browse and Barry Odom. Before I try to take care of myself and land this mega contract, I think I would go to Arkansas administration and say, I want guaranteed that I can have the highest assistant salary in the country so that I can keep these guys. And I want the biggest recruiting budget in the SEC before you take care of me. Now, it's easy for me to say that because it ain't my money. You know what I mean? But I think that would be the path to Arkansas, making sure that all their progress is sustained. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on that and just this 7-year, $50 million reported deal that Sam Pittman's interested in?
No, I see what you're saying, but again, when you look at the narrative of the players, we just got a first rounder deciding to come back and stay at home. Show me that you're committed to that home. You know what I'm saying? there's no home if you ain't got family or parents, you know what I'm saying? Sam's the dad, you know, so you got to keep the dad there because he'll keep everything lined up. So I don't know. I see what you're saying, and the first step to the commitment that you're asking is in the head coach. So the fact that Sam even had to ask for this, you know what I'm saying? I think what I would love to have seen is an extension, because he has one of the worst contracts in the SEC right now, and just show them that, hey, we're serious. We took a chance on you. We're believers now. Okay. Yes, sir. We're all in. And I think that's important for him. So after that, yes. And you're going to see it, Mike. I think you're already starting to see it. That Arkansas recruiting budget is going to go through the roof. These guys are ready. They got a little taste of victory. You know, they remember the 90s well. They want to be back on the map. So to do that, you've got to pay the leader, and then you got to pay to get these kids to school.
Yeah, you make a great point. I mean, the best thing Arkansas can do is get stability, and we all know what a crapshoot hiring coaches are. They've got their perfect fit. You know, he may not be a perfect fit for everybody. He's a perfect fit for the Arkansas Razorbacks. You know, they need to keep him happy and keep him there as the head coach for as long as they possibly can. You know what?
Absolutely. And just the structure alone, man, because one of the things we talked about Deion Sanders the other day and the NILs, and Lane Kiffin even made the point, I hope these kids get what they were promised. You know, there's going to be some fallout here, man. There's going to be some kids that were promised certain things. And I think the way Arkansas is doing this, they're not rushing it, man. They're doing it nice and slow, but they're fulfilling promises. Sam made promises, he's fulfilling them. And I think if you can do that, then it helps you in the long run when you can say, hey, I'm promising you this. And they can look at a long track record of getting exactly what they were supposed to. So I think that's key, man. You're just earning trust with these kids.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's skip it down to College Station, Shane, where we got some quarterback news because Zach Calzada has entered the transfer portal, leaving Texas A&M. And, you know, he's not the most popular player in the SEC because he was just so inconsistent in his first year. But, you know, he really got banged up. You know, he had the shoulder issues. He had a knee issue. He got hurt against Alabama. But they'll never be able to take away that performance, Shane, because he played like a warrior against Alabama. And this was an Alabama team that came back. I believe they took the lead late in that game. Yet they needed the Aggies. They needed Zach Calzada to have a scoring drive, and he did just that to win this football game. So, you know, even if he's going to end his career elsewhere, but I think he's always going to have him free drinks down there in College Station for beating Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide. But that's not all the quarterback news, Shane, because Haynes King, who I thought he was out for the season, it sounds like he may suit up for Texas A&M in the bowl game, which would be pretty wild to see. So I'm hoping he can do that, and I hope he shines in that game. And then defensive coordinator Mike Elko, he left, Shane, to become the new Duke head coach, which he gave you 4 good years, gave you one of the best defenses in the SEC and the country. So, you know, he's owed everything coming his way up there at Duke. I hope he does well. But now, you know, Jimbo, make no mistake, we just talked about Jimbo, you know, not really having the greatest years of being a head coach, but you can't say that about Mike Elko and his defense. They've been carrying the program the last 2 years, last 3 years, whatever you want to call it. But, you know, that's why this is such an important hire, that Jimbo nails this to keep that continuity going on that defensive side of the ball. And I got to tell you, Shane, I got to imagine this is going to be an easy job to fill, given all the talent the Aggies have to work with. And that's before they just lock down the number one class, which is just chock full of defensive linemen and defensive backs. I mean, this has got to be probably the number one defensive coordinator job on the board, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They got their pick of the litter here, man. They may wait till see one of these NFL guys get fired, and they'll just bring them on down. Just be another Alabama, because when I think about defense jobs, I think of Georgia. I think of A&M right now. I mean, partly Bama just because of the pure talent they have, but they're going to have their pick of the litter. I thought, you know, I mean, obviously it sucks because, you know, one thing about Jimbo, he has kept that staff together for so long, and I think that helps with recruiting and just knowing what to expect from each other. But, you know, it's time for Elko to do something. He's been rumored every single season that he's been down there. So he's going to get his opportunity following Coach Cut down there at Duke. But, no, I think they're not going to struggle here. I think they're going to get a name. They're going to get whatever name they want.
Mm-hmm. All right, last two teams, Shane. Let's jump to the state of Mississippi real quick. Let's start in Starkville, where just wanted to get your thoughts on this, Shane, because these comments went pretty viral from Mike Leach, and I don't know that this was directed specifically at Martin Emerson, their starting corner, but you know he declared for the draft and he's off to the NFL. And Leach was asked about bowl opt-outs, and hey, God bless him, man. He does not hold anything back in these press settings.
You said you don't expect many opt-outs, or you said you don't know who to expect who might opt out for the bowl game, but if you had to guess, would you say that Charles will play in the game? Because a lot of guys that are projected top 7 or 6 sometimes end up opting out of that game.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what he'll do, but you know, you finish what you start. You know, you've got an obligation to the place that helped build and develop you, and finish it out in the bowl. I mean, that's part of it. You owe it to your team, you owe it to your fans, you owe it to your coaches, and you know, and it's the most bizarre thing in the world to me. Somebody says, "Well, you know, I can't play one more." You know, they think they're going to have a storied 10-year NFL career, and then they can't play one more college game. Well, that's ridiculous. I mean, guys will go to the NFL and they make the Pro Bowl, then they'll play in the Pro Bowl. I mean, you know, no, it's one of the biggest absurdities that I've seen, and it's selfish too.
All right, Shane, so I just wanted to ask you your thoughts on this. You know, I'll give you mine real quick because, you know, I just saw everybody and their mother bashing Mike Leach for making these comments, and I kind of get it because, you know, we're in the era of the transfer portal, and players have more and more power and more rights, and they deserve everything that's coming to them because they work so hard. And I certainly think in years past, you could say they were certainly taken advantage of it in many ways, not in all ways, but in some ways. But at the same time, Shane, there's a lot of people I saw that said, hell, he's 100% right. And I agree with everything he said. And this is just one of these topics, Shane, where either you're like, oh, you're either on this side or you're on that side. And there's no gray, even though we live in a world of gray. And there's some truth to what Mike Leach said. He's got to be a little careful, I think, because you don't want to piss off recruits and your own players, your own coaches and all that. But I don't know. I just appreciate the fact that Mike Leach will go out here and say it. You know, he's not giving you a coach speak. He's telling you exactly what he thinks, right or wrong, whether you agree with him or disagree with him. I don't think he gives a damn what anybody says about his opinions. And I got to give him a credit for that, if nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, bowl games were it, man. There was no opt-outs. Everything was on the line for that bowl game. So some of the best football games I've ever watched were bowl games, two teams that typically don't face each other. So I love them, and I'm 100% behind this. Now, in years past, I understand it. You're going to the league, yada, yada, yada. You want to, you know, some of them say, hey, it's a 7-win season. You know, who cares? It's not a big bowl game. It's not a big deal. I'm going to the NFL. I don't want to get hurt because we've seen players get hurt in this thing. But, you know, things are shifting, man. I mean, kids are paid now. I mean, what if I paid you, Mike, to work all year long, and then it comes up in December, you say, you know what? I think I'm going to take this month off. I'm going to come back in January. You know what I'm saying? Wait a minute. It's one thing if I gave you a free ride to college, but now we're looking at these NIL deals and people getting paid. They're paying you. So it's like, I mean, it's sports, man. It's basically professional sports. We're paying to play. So sitting out, is that not a little bit controversial there? If you know what I'm saying, taking your paycheck, going to the house. So I don't know. I've always been one of those guys that you lay it out, because there's a lot of players on that team that will never get to play another snap of football. That is their last opportunity, and they would love to go out victorious. You never want to lose on a loss, because I did, Mike. I'm telling you, man, I'm still hurt when I see Bearden when I drive through that area because they crushed my soul and it was my punter's fault. But whatever, that's what happened. So, but you never want to go out on a loss, and I think it's just big for those kids. And if you got players, guys that you went through 2 days with, that you put the blood, sweat, and tears in, just opting out. I mean, it's just not fair, I don't think. But I get it. There's a whole other side of this. And I don't think it should be black and white. I do think there should be some gray here. And obviously, if you're a first round pick, probably top 5, top 10, I get it. And you're going to whatever bowl out of Del Rio, it doesn't matter. Then I understand that. But if you're a third round, a second round, fourth round, anything like that, then come on, play the damn bowl game.
Right. And that's kind of where I wanted to end it, Shane, with the Ole Miss. Now, I'm not trying to equate the two, and I'm not saying, let's celebrate Ole Miss and let's crap on Mississippi State or anything, but, we got Matt Corral. He's playing in the Sugar Bowl. Their All-American defensive end, Sam Williams, playing in the Sugar Bowl. And how special this Ole Miss team is, Shane, it's not often that the Rebels get to play in the Sugar Bowl. They're going to play the Big 12 champion Baylor. And, of course, while we were away, the news became official. The offensive coordinator, Jeff Lebby, off to Oklahoma. But I don't know if I've ever heard this before, Shane. The offensive coordinator, now forgive me if this has changed. I've been on vacation, but my understanding is he's going to coach the Ole Miss Rebels in this bowl game. And I just think that speaks to how special this team is and how they're all, they're in it for each other. And like I said, I mean, it's one thing. Hell, the head coaches usually, like Brian Kelly, they don't stick around for the bowl game. And here we got a coordinator sticking around for these players and the coaching staff. And I know it's the Sugar Bowl. It's a big-time game. But I just wanted to call attention to that because I think that's outstanding. And I hope Ole Miss beats the hell out of them. You know what?
Absolutely, man. It's a big season. Nobody expected this type of season from Ole Miss. I'll tell you, I didn't. And
right.
it was a wonderful season, and a lot of that had to do with these players. A lot of that had to do with this coaching staff, and I'm just glad that they're sticking together. Like you said, right here to the bittersweet end, and I hope they kick ass there in the Sugar Bowl.
All right, Shane. Hey, we went long on this one. Had to recap everything that happened. We'll probably have 2 weeks of nothing to talk about now that I'm back. But I didn't want to. These are the topics I really wanted to hit on, and I'm sure there was others that we missed, but. I really do appreciate you hopping on the line here 2 days in a week. My goodness, it feels like old times getting you on the show like this. But you got anything before we hop off?
Oh no, man! It's been eventful last couple of weeks. I'm glad we got to recap this, and you're not jet setting anytime soon, so we got some bowl games coming up. We got some reviews we're going to talk about. If you got an Apple product, man, I'm telling you. Those things help us out. I'd love nothing more to see some beer koozies out there at these bowl games. Me and Mike and my brother were trying to get out there to Nashville and watch Tennessee play. So I hope if you're at a bowl game, you take your beer koozie with you and send us a pic so we can share it there on Twitters and the YouTubes and everything like that. But if you get an Apple product or if you know somebody that does, hey, it's Christmas time. Go to the Verizon store there and just pop a quick review in, as you're looking for your next phone product. So those help us out, and I appreciate everybody that's taking the time to do those for us.
Yeah, the perfect stocking stuffer right there. You know what? And it won't cost you a dime. So we really do appreciate that. We appreciate all the support. And Shane, I really appreciate you for showing up time and time again this season. And man, Christmas right around the corner. So we ain't slowing down. But I know you got a party to get to, so I'll get you off the line here. But I do appreciate you, brother, and I appreciate each and every one of you. We'll catch you on the next one.
All right, see you guys. Go Vols. You know who's getting drunk tonight? 2 thumbs at this guy.